Guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Bakisakale, and to all the women in South Africa, I would love to wish you guys a happy Women's Month. And of course, because it's Women's Month, the best thing that I can do for us, honestly, is to cover women, right? I mean, like crime cases wise, to cover women who suffered or who lost their lives at the hands of gender-based violence. And the case that we're actually covering today actually also happened within this month, around the 24th of August. So it's a bit, it was guys, like, I know all the time I say like it was a very hectic case, but this one was very heartfelt. And so let's get into it. So the beautiful woman whose case we'll be covering today goes by the name of Uyinene Mrwetyana. I hope I'm saying that right, and apologies if I'm not. Who was born on the 20th of April in the year 2000 to parents Philip and Noma. She was born in East London, and so she basically lived there for most of her life. Uyinene had an older brother. Now, Uyinene, as described by her family and friends, was a social butterfly. You know, those people that just naturally, like, people just naturally gravitate towards them. She was very, like, warm in her nature. She loved people. She was good at sports. While she loved sports, I mean, if you've seen pictures of her as well, and if you watch the memorial, you know that she worked out a lot. She ate well as well. Like, she was just that type of a person. She was also very, very smart. Uyinene then went on to complete her primary school at Hudson Park Primary and then moved on to Kingswood College High School. And this is when her love for like film and media like began to brew. And then she then applied to the University of Cape Town, where it is that she'd be majoring in film and media. This is in the year 2019. Now, Uyinene's first year of varsity went really well. I mean, she was moving away from home into like a completely different environment. But because of who she was in her nature, like, I think she knew she would fit in. She knew that she was going to do good and that she was going to be okay. And so, you know, she was just there in Cape Town living her first year life as any other child would. And, you know, like with girls, usually, you know, you get like clothing and stuff like that. From now, you know, it's like Shein or Shein. I'm not sure how you guys pronounce it. You know, we get so many things online. And so this is what Uyinene decided to do. So on the 8th of August in the year 2019, she had walked to her local post office to see whether or not her parcel was ready. There are some few things that she had ordered online. And so, you know, if you see her pictures, she just looks like someone that was really, like, she had a very good fashion sense. So when I heard about this, my first thing was, okay, cool, maybe she was fetching clothes or, you know, something really nice. So when she went on the 8th of August, she was told that her parcel was not ready yet and that she'd be contacted at the time when the parcel does reach the post office. Now, on the 24th of August 2019, she had actually received an SMS, that would alert her that her parcel was ready for collection. And so she wasn't really in a rush, so she decided to walk to to the post office to go in to collect her parcel. But upon arrival, she was asked to please come back around 2 p.m. because at the time they were experiencing a power cut. Now, the person who had helped her this time on the 24th was the same gentleman that had helped her on like earlier in the month when she had came to request the parcel. So they were like to her, no, we have power cuts at the moment, which is not something that's very strange, especially, I mean, in South Africa, power cuts happen all the time. So they were like to her, no, please, we have power cuts. If you can please come back at around 2 p.m. Now, the strange part about this thing was that on Saturdays, post offices usually close at like 1 p.m. So for them for this particular employee to want to come back at 2 p.m. is already where things start to become a little bit tricky. Now, Luyanda Bueta, who was 42 years old at the time, was the one that had previously helped Uyinene and also helped her on this day when he had asked her to come back at 2. While Luyanda actually has a criminal record or criminal records. In the year 1999, he was arrested for about 8 years for like a string of like robberies. He was someone who had a past as well with women, and charges were dropped and all of that with like the cases that had to do with the women. And it's just a bit scary because it's like, okay, this guy has like all these criminal records and like he's employed and working at a post office. And post office is a place where like you deal with different customers, like money is exchanged, like there's just a lot going on. But yeah, so this is the man that helped her on the day, and the man that had asked her to come back later that day at 2 p.m. And so it was also known that he was currently going through a divorce with his second wife. Now, what Uyinene did not know is that her parcel had actually been ready 8 days prior to the day that she came. So now we're on the 28th of August. She had previously came on the 8th of August, but because the parcel was ready 8 days before, this would be around the 20th of August, her parcel was actually ready for collection. So it's like 8 days due, like past the date that it was ready. So it's also just a bit weird because it's like, her parcel's been ready. You know what I'm saying? Her parcel's been ready. For him to also just be like, dude, come back later on a later date, or please come back at a later time, because at the moment, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it just shows you that this particular employee could have had other motives. And I mean, it's unfortunate that she didn't even know that her parcel, 1, had been ready 8 days earlier, that 2, the post office doesn't even, like, the post office closes at 1, and so she's not even in a rush, man. She's just like, okay, cool, no, it's fine. And I mean, when you're at a shop, especially when you've done, not really a shop, but like at a place of service, and you've dealt with a specific person before, not to say you guys build a relationship, man, but like, I come today and you're like, oh no, it's not ready, Mikey, but maybe you come back on this day. When I come back, I'm dealing with you again. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, I don't really have a reason to mistrust you, because I'm thinking, okay, cool, no, you telling me to come back at a time when will be more convenient for me, and you're sure that, okay, by the time I come back at 2 o'clock, I'm gonna get the parcel. Like, I don't really have a reason to be in doubt. I don't know that this guy has a criminal record. So, like, for her, there were no red flags. There was nothing that was, like, weird. You know what I'm saying? So that afternoon, Luyanda was then on duty with a female colleague of whom he told could leave. I think they knocked off at 1. Yeah, the post office closed at 1, and he basically told her that he would lock up after her, and so that she can go home. Now, from the time period of 1 o'clock until Uyinene was to come back at 2 o'clock, basically Luyanda was by himself at the post office. Now, just around 2 o'clock, Uyinene then used an Uber or e-hailing service to get to the post office. And so apparently, when she came out, she was just on her phone chatting. Like, she was someone that regularly chatted to her friends and her family. So there wasn't really anything that was strange about that. And so she walked into the post office, and so the last person to see her alive would then be her Uber driver, or the man that dropped her off at the post office. And so because she's someone that was regularly in contact with her family, her absence, especially at her res, where it is that she stayed, was quickly noticed, because she didn't tell her friends. Like in res, or like when you've built a tight-knit group of friends, if you're going out that evening, you'll alert them like, oh, by the way, I'm going out today, whether it's with your boyfriend, whether it's with other friends, or whatever it is. But when you regularly like in contact with people, you would tell them if you're not coming back at night, or whatever the case may be. And so because she was someone that often spoke to her family and her friends, her like being quiet for that amount of time started to raise suspicions. And so that's when her friends and family knew that something was definitely wrong. Now, on the 26th of August in the year 2019, which is 2 days after Nene disappeared, that's when a search started, basically, with the police. That's when posters went out. The hashtag Bring Nene Home was also circulating on social media. Her family also decided then to also get private investigators, because they were under the impression that she could have possibly been trafficked as well, because as we know in South Africa, it's actually a reality, especially for women. Like, at any moment in time, a woman could be kidnapped and then trafficked. So her parents definitely thought that by getting a private investigator, this would help in, like, in the efforts of trying to find her. And while this was going on, there were mass prayers that were held. There was a surge by university students, the Cape Town residents. Like, everyone was doing everything that they could to make sure that they find her, and hopefully find her well and safe. Now, because of how much coverage this case was getting, her Uber driver on the day then decided to go to the police and tell them that the last place that he had dropped her off, or that he had seen her, was at the post office. And so upon the police receiving this information, the police then decided to go in to physically examine the post office where she was last seen. And when they walked into the safe at the post office, they did I don't know what that thing is called. You know that thing when they spray, I don't know if they spray something or what they do, and then they switch off the lights, and then if there's blood, it shows blue. I don't know what that thing is, but they did that thing, and then near by the safe there was like quite a large amount of blood that was like that they could see within the safe of the post office. Now, a rapid DNA was then conducted, and it confirmed that it was actually Uyinene's blood. And at the time of the incident, there were no operational cameras, of which is not really a shock. I feel like a lot of places actually don't have operational cameras, especially in this country, like government places. Okay, anyway. So yeah, the cameras weren't working on that day of the incident, and it didn't really take a lot of time for them to figure out who it could have been that had committed the crime, or who would know what had happened, because that day there was just one employee that stayed behind, and he also happens to be the employee that was absent like the days after. So the day of the incident, and the following days after that, Luyanda's been absent from work. So it didn't really take them a lot to like pin it down on one person, or at least know that at least this one person would definitely know what happened. Now on the 29th of August, which is 5 days later, he was then arrested by I'm talking about Luyanda, the one that works at the not police station, sorry guys, at the post office. He was then arrested, and apparently he didn't even resist. Like, it's almost like he kind of knew what was going on, so like his body language kind of gave it away, in a sense, if you could say that. But at this point, like, her family still had hope that, you know what, maybe he'll be able to tell them where she is, or what could potentially like be happening with her, or maybe if she left there, where did she go? But I mean, now also like her blood was found in the safe, but they were still hopeful that maybe wherever she is, like even if she's injured, maybe she's still alive, and you know, she could be well. Now, after interrogation, Luyanda then said that he had actually put her body near an abandoned railway, only to find that 4 days earlier, the police had actually already found her body. So what happened was that 4 days earlier, police that were on patrol had actually found the body, and so then obviously went to the government mortuary, but it was burnt beyond recognition. Like, they couldn't just look at it and know who it was. So at the time when her posters were circulating and stuff like that, it wasn't like oh, we have her, you know what I'm saying, type of situation, because she was burned so badly. So then the police actually realized that, oh, okay, they could have potentially found this body because it's in the exact same area that he's saying he left the body. And so then DNA was conducted, and unfortunately it was the body of Uyinene. After this, then police decided to go to his home, search his car, and upon them searching his car, they actually then found traces of blood, of Uyinene's blood, within his car as well. Now, at this point, it was pretty evident what it was that had happened, or rather, who it was that had committed the crime. And so then Luyanda then decided that he would tell them the story of what happened on that fateful day. And so basically what he says happened is that she walked into the post office at 2 o'clock that day, and he then locked the door, like she got in, and then he closed the door, and he actually had locked it without her knowledge, because she was actually like searching in her bag, trying to get her purse out so that she can pay the fee for the parcel being delivered. And so upon this happening, while she was still searching in her bag, this is when he started to make sexual advances towards her, and this is when she started to become very distressed and uncomfortable. A struggle then broke out, and shortly after, she was then sexually assaulted. And upon them struggling and struggling, she then actually managed to break free from him and run towards the door. However, upon her getting to the door, that's when she actually realized that the door was locked, and that he was actually now like walking towards her. He then knocked her to the ground, and then he dragged her into the safe, like he was pulling on one of her legs, and basically dragged her into the safe. And as you can imagine, she was still screaming, she was still kicking, she was still basically like fighting for her life. To silence her, she was then hit with a 2 kg packaging weight on the head, and this was basically the fatal blow. It is at this moment when he realized like the effect of what it was that he did, because that blow was so like fatal to her, or like it was such a fatal injury, that's probably the injury that like ended her life. He then decided to go to the liquor store and to buy alcohol, and he was basically just drinking outside. I don't know what, like drinking for what, but Yeah, so he was basically just trying to drown out everything that he had did. Just before midnight, he then decided to go in to wrap her up with cushions, put a t-shirt on her, and wrap her up with a blanket. He then also cleaned up the crime scene. Shortly after that, he then wrapped her in postal bags and dragged her into the boot of his car. This is when he drove to the abandoned railways and where he buried her body and then decided to burn it. He was then found guilty and sentenced to 3 life sentences. He is, however, eligible for parole after 25 years. And I couldn't find the article, but I remember at the time when this was happening, I don't know if it's true or false, to be honest. I couldn't find it this time around, but apparently, like, when he was giving the account of what happened and all of that, he had actually said something along the lines of, like, she was as strong as a man, like something like that. Like, she basically put up such a fight. Like, at some point he was like, whoa, like, this girl, you know what I'm saying? I read something like that. I'm just not sure how true or how false it was, but he was basically just saying that she put up a fight, like she really fought, and it wasn't what he was expecting. Now, in South Africa, an average of 8 women are killed by men per day, and this is 5 times higher than the global rate. Now then, a foundation was created in her honor, and basically what the foundation does is that it helps victims of gender-based violence, you know, like mentally. They do quite a few things actually with the foundation that they had started for her. And yeah, guys, this is, I think, like, this case is just so, it's a bit disturbing. Like, I think this is the case that really caused a lot of just like we were so uneasy, because I mean, the post office, that's not a place where you'd think if I'm at the post office I could lose my life, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it was just honestly one of those cases that really did make me think a lot and really kind of put in a bit of trauma as well, because you're thinking, like, if you're at a place like that, the post office is not a place where you're thinking you need to have a buddy, like let's go together, I'm going to the post office type of thing. But this is someone who didn't think that either, you know, and little did she know that that would actually be the end. And so it's actually a very, very heartbreaking case. But please don't forget to like, to comment, to subscribe. Let me know what other cases you'd like for me to cover, guys. See you next time. Bye.